Good morning, everybody. Good morning from Massachusetts. I'm Jennifer, and I'm ready to get started. I apologize, I am 1 or 2 minutes late, but I was trying to get my mic to work. It wasn't working. Suddenly, it stopped working, but I'm going to do a quick tech check on my laptop to make sure you can see me and hear me well. If you're tuning in, say hi. Also, give me a thumbs up if you can hear me and see me, okay? Yes, it looks like we're good to go. Okay, super guys. So welcome, happy May. It is a new month. I'm excited to start May. There are new lessons, new topics on Patreon, new things coming up. Stay tuned. I have announcements to share with you. So it's an exciting beginning to the spring. We have about an hour together right now, and some questions or requests came in, and I have some tasks prepared for you. Everyone can benefit, everyone can watch. If you're a member, feel free to join the chat and participate. Also, after this live stream, I'll be sharing some follow-up practice tasks on the community tab, and they are for members, so it just takes a click to join, and you can participate in the live chat today and get those follow-up practice tasks that will be based on the topics that come up today. If there are any new questions, feel free to put them in the chat, and I'll do my best to answer them either now or perhaps towards the end. Okay, I hope that you can hear me well and see me well. It looks good on my laptop. So I think we're going to jump in and work my little magic and get onto my screen here. Okay, let's see if you can see what I see. Super. All right. Feel free if you're tuning in and you want to join the chat. I'd love to know where you're tuning in from. As I said, I'm in Massachusetts. Sometimes people have watched me for a while, but they still don't know where I live. I'm on the east coast of the US. I'm in Massachusetts. We often refer to this area as New England. So Massachusetts is part of New England. That might sound confusing that we're New England, not England. But in any case, I'm in Massachusetts, based outside of Boston. So I don't know what time zone you're in, but I wish you a good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Thank you for taking the time to join me. Okay. All right, so one thing I'd love to warm up with, everyone can practice. This is for pronunciation. I have a whole playlist on intonation and rhythm. I have a whole playlist on oral reading. These are ways to build your pronunciation skills. One thing that you want to master is rhythm. Rhythm, right? That's part of the music of a language. And you need to understand the difference between content words and function words. You'll hear many teachers talk about this, and I encourage you to listen to different presentations, different lessons, because they'll all work together to give you a solid understanding of how this works in English. Basically, content words are important words. They're the words that carry meaning. These are nouns, verbs, adverbs, adjectives, and there can be exceptions. The function words are the little words that we need grammatically to construct a sentence, but they don't carry as much meaning, right? Like if I say, I have a car, have and car are most important. Yes, it's important who has a car, but a pronoun like I is usually considered a function word, unless we need to clarify. It's not Sam, it's me. I have a car. He doesn't have a car. So there are times where we break the basic so-called rules, but basically the content words are key words that carry meaning, and they tend to be nouns, verbs, adjectives, and adverbs. The function words are the little ones, okay? Articles, prepositions. As I said, there are exceptions, okay? All right, still checking to see who's with me. So I have a few sentences that we're going to read together. Let me go as big as I can, because I know some of you are watching on a small screen. How is that? Okay. I love to base examples on what is really going on in my life. So this is true. I don't know how many of you use Netflix, but you might have other platforms. I think we all enjoy movies and TV shows to some degree. So first sentence, I started to watch a new series on Netflix, but I've only watched the first 2 or 3 episodes. Right? Do you do that? You start one series and maybe you watch it straight through, but you may watch it like me, just when you have time, little by little. Okay, so basically when we're going to read something, we speak in thought groups, right? Thought groups are groups of ideas. It's a single thought. And so a sentence might have one thought group, might have a couple or more. The longer the sentence, the more thought groups we have. We don't have a lot of breath to speak endlessly. So we have to break up long ideas into thought groups. When we do oral reading, punctuation is going to help us. Things like commas and periods and parentheses and dashes help us break up the long sentence into smaller thought groups. Okay? All right. So watch this. I see a comma. That helps. And I see the period. That's a full stop, right? So I'm going to have at least 2 thought groups. Now, I started to watch a new series on Netflix. I can say that in one breath, right? But I've only watched. I might choose to say what, watched what. Thought groups follow grammar. So we might have like a subject and then the predicate, meaning the verb and the rest of the information. Or if you have a short subject and a short verb, like I have, you might keep going into the object. But right here, the object is quite long, so I might choose to break it up like this. But I've only watched the first 2 or 3 episodes. So I think this will work well for me. I started to watch a new series on Netflix, but I've only watched the first 2 or 3 episodes. Now, within each thought group, there are content words, keywords, words, like I said, nouns, verbs, adjectives, adverbs. Watch this. Started, watch, new, series, Netflix. Now, when you have words with more than one syllable, there is going to be a stress syllable, like started, bum, bum. So I do need to remember I'm going to stress this vowel sound a little more, right? Started. Netflix, right? I'm going to stress and lengthen that vowel sound a little more. Only, watched. Numbers are important. Quantities like much, many, all. We need these quantifiers to tell us how much or how little of something, right? Only. That's 2 syllables. I'm going to stress the O. Let's lengthen that. Whoopsies, not like that. Like this. Okay. Watched for, and episodes. Bum, bum, bum. Episodes. The first syllable is stressed, and so it lengthens that vowel sound. Okay. So when I start stressing, and that means lengthening stressed vowels, I might lengthen, I might get a little louder, so things are louder, longer, and sometimes at a higher pitch. My voice may go up to stress a certain sound. And this starts to create the music of the language. I started to watch a new series. Oops, series. We also want to get that one. Seer. Seer, right? That has 2 syllables. Series. I started to watch a new series on Netflix, but I've only watched the first 2 or 3 episodes. The content words get stressed, like the first 2 or 3 episodes. I'm not going to stress function words like the or a pronoun like I, or a preposition, or little conjunctions like that. I'll read it again. I started to watch a new series on Netflix, but I've only watched the first 2 or 3 episodes, right? Content words help us create the rhythm, right? What do we stress? Get it? If you're watching the recording, you can pause at this point and read the sentence yourself, right? These are places where we have a little bit of a pause. We can breathe, take in some breath to get to the next thought group. We do remember there is something called intonation, whether a voice goes up or down. At the end of a statement, your voice wants to fall, right? It shows certainty, it shows completion. That's the end of my full idea. I'll read it once more. I started to watch a new series on Netflix, but I've only watched the first 2 or 3 episodes. Episodes. There's my falling intonation. Okay? All right. Do you know which series I've been watching, guys? It's Wednesday. Does anyone know this series? Wednesday. You can Google it. You can, on YouTube, find the trailer for the TV show and see if it's something that you would like or not. Okay. All right. Again, let's look. Just at the punctuation, I can tell that we're going to have at least 2 thought groups. But this is quite long already, so we'll not probably break it up more. Wednesday is based on the 1960s American TV show, The Addams Family. I might be able to say all of this because it's a short subject, it's a short verb. You could possibly say is based, but based on is a collocation. I would keep it together. Is based on. I would go up to here, and then there's the Addams Family, the name of the show. It identifies the TV show. For those of you who love grammar terms, I'd call that an appositive. It's the daughter, and it's the daughter who's the focus of the show. Look at this. We have subject, verb, and then this is the subject complement here. We have a clause. A clause often is its own grammatical unit, its own thought group, right? So I would keep a clause like this as a thought group. I wouldn't break it up. So what are we going to stress? A name is important. This is important. 60s American TV show is all important. Wednesday, I'm going to stress the first syllable. That means I'm going to lengthen the vowel. 1960s, American, American. TV show, remember it's not TV, well, TV show, American TV show. You could probably shift the stress. The American TV show. I think it might have shifting. I'll have to double check that, but 1960s American TV show. I'm going to go with this one. The Addams Family. It's a name. It's important. Family, content word. Look, there's a whole thought group and there's only one content word. We have a conjunction, a little verb like be, especially as part of a contraction. It's going to be a function word. Articles are function words. We rarely stress them, right? The daughter who's the focus of the show. Okay, so daughter, stress. Addams, family. If you don't know what is stressed, you go to a dictionary and they will show you which syllable is stressed. It's often with a stressed mark. I recently shared the video on the IPA symbols, and you'll know that that symbol looks like an apostrophe in phonetic transcriptions, shows the stressed syllable. So you'll see family, Addams, daughter, focus. Stressing means lengthening that stressed vowel sound. Okay. Hey, I see my hippo here. Happy you're practicing with me. So look at this. Again, I'm going to try to read this as one thought group. And at the end of a thought group, it's an opportunity for me to take in a little breath so that I can continue reading into the next thought group. At the end, I'll have falling intonation. Wednesday is based on the 1960s. I would do 1960s. So just so you know, as you read this, I would break it up. 1960s. Wednesday is based on the 1960s American TV show, The Addams Family. And it's the daughter who's the focus of the show. It's the daughter who's the focus of the show. Do you see how the content words establish the rhythm? It's the daughter who's the focus of the show, falling intonation at the end. Okay, I'm going to just go like that. Again, if you're watching the recording, you can pause and read that sentence a couple of times. Right now, if you're with me live, read it aloud. Read that sentence aloud. Here, one more time. Let's go. Wednesday is based on the 1960s American TV show, The Addams Family, and it's the daughter who's the focus of the show. Okay? Good. Let's go to number 3. Okay. The young girl hasn't been getting along with her current... We have another long sentence. Punctuation helps us a little bit, but that's quite long, so we'll probably break it up somewhere. The young girl hasn't been getting along with others at her current school. Prepositional phrases are sometimes by themselves. We actually have 2 in a row. With others at her current school. She hasn't been getting along with others. Where? At her current school. I might say one prepositional phrase and then break off the other into its own thought group. All right? The young girl hasn't been getting along with others at her current school, and she ends up being sent to Nevermore Academy. Same thing, we have a prepositional phrase. I might choose to break off that prepositional phrase into its own thought group. She's being sent where? To Nevermore Academy. That's the name of the private school. Okay, what are the content words? Young, girl. Helping verbs are usually not stressed. It's the main verb that gets stressed. This happens to be a phrasal verb. Do you remember get along, when you get along with people? Mahippo, you're out there. You can take a guess, or perhaps you know right away what get along means. If you get along with others, is that positive or negative? Is that a good thing or a bad thing? It's a good phrasal verb. Do you get along with your classmates? Do you get along with your coworkers? Do you get along with your siblings? Others has 2 syllables, so there's going to be one stressed and one unstressed. Current school. Ends up is another phrasal verb. Here we go again. This is passive, but the main verb is sent. Again, when you have a verb with multiple parts, the helping verb usually is not stressed. It is the main verb that is stressed. And names are always important, so we'll stress that. Getting, that's stressed. Along, bum bum. Others, current. Remember what I've said, if you don't know what is stressed, look in a dictionary, look for that symbol that looks like an apostrophe. It's a stress mark. It will tell you which syllable is stressed, which vowel gets emphasis and is lengthened. And she ends up. Phrasal verbs also have their own rhythm, but sometimes we have a choice and we use the pattern that suits the context best. She ends up. I would put a little bit more stress on up, by the way. She ends up being, you could say ends up being sent or ends up being sent. There, you have a choice. To Nevermore Academy. Nevermore Academy. Nevermore Academy. Listen, the young girl hasn't been getting along with others at her current school, and she ends up being sent to Nevermore Academy. Try reading it with me. The young girl hasn't been getting along with others at her current school, and she ends up being sent to Nevermore Academy. Okay. How are you doing? You getting the hang of it? So anytime you want to practice oral reading, I advise you to choose a text that's interesting, not too difficult, because you want your attention to be on pronouncing, and reading with expression. You don't want it to be you don't want to have your attention too much focused on what is this about. Or so you could take something that's difficult, but then read it silently first, look up any new words, make sure you understand it so that you can read it confidently and focus your attention on pronunciation. But then just with a really short segment, start marking it up. Where are the thought groups? Punctuation will be one guide, and then grammar guides you as well. Right? Follow the conjunctions, right? Usually comma, but that means it's going to be its own thought group there. We often have clauses like this. A WH clause will be its own thought group. Prepositional phrases are often their own thought groups. Okay? Okay, but 2 more. Does anyone know this series? Again, I encourage you to check out the trailer. You can put the Addams Family Netflix trailer, and you can see if this is a type of show that would appeal to you or not. Okay. All right. Wednesday doesn't really want to go to any school, but she has to learn how to find her place within the new community. Right? She doesn't want to be at any school, but now she's at Nevermore Academy. So that's her new community. Again, we'll have at least 2 thought groups, but these are quite long, so let's see if we'll break them up further. She doesn't really want to go where? To any school. You might break that off. It's a prepositional phrase. She doesn't really want to go to any school, but she has to learn, look at that, how to find her place within the new community. That's a WH clause, right? It's a question word, and it leads into a full thought. It happens to be expressed with an infinitive, but that basically means how she should find her place within the new community. So logically, I would put that as its own thought group. Clauses tend to be their own thought groups, right? Embedded questions, WH clauses. Okay, so what are the content words? I'll pause for a moment and let you think in that first one. What are the stressed words? What's important? Well, we've seen this before. Names are important. Negative helping verbs. I said helping verbs don't usually get stressed, but if they're negative, they can be important, right? The young girl. So up here, the young girl hasn't been, you could possibly, I'll take this back. You could possibly stress it because it's negative. The young girl hasn't been getting along. Wednesday doesn't really want to go. So if it's negative, we might need to stress it for clarity, right? Wednesday doesn't really want to go. Doesn't really want to go to any school, but she has to learn how to find her place. Within is a preposition. Prepositions are usually function words, but some prepositions are longer. They have 2 syllables. Whenever we have 2 syllables, one will be stressed, one will be unstressed. Within, her place within. This is where the stress is. Within the new community. Okay, again, Wednesday, really, really. This is the stress vowels. If you choose to stress doesn't, any, community, bum, 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 community. This is the vowel that will be stressed, okay? Actually, I can take this off. That's the syllable, but I want to lengthen that vowel, any. Listen. Wednesday doesn't really want to go. And yes, I'm reducing want to go to want to go. Wednesday doesn't really want to go to any school, but she has to learn how to find her place within the new community. Look what I did. How to find her place. Even within this clause, it could be possible to have yet one more thought group because it's quite a long prepositional phrase. So I could possibly say how to find her place within the new community, but that's quite a lot. How to find her place within the new community. Okay, how's that? Let's read that following the thought groups. That's where you're going to breathe, take in some breath, and follow the content words. This will create the rhythm. Let's read 4. Wednesday doesn't really want to go to any school, but she has to learn how to find her place within the new community. And remember, we have falling intonation at the end. Community. Last one. I'll let you look at it for a moment. Read it to yourself and think, where would those thought groups be? Hey, Manuel, good to have you here. Again, punctuation is going to help. A dash definitely is a break. Whenever we have a list, we usually say each item as a thought group, like 1, 2, and 3. A, B, or C. So even if they're single words, we might make them their own thought groups. Okay? She can't complain. This is a clause. A that clause. That nevermore is dull. See? So, Wednesday can't complain that nevermore is dull, not with its werewolves, vampires, and more. Or I can say in other creatures. There are other creatures. There are other, it's not my creatures, but like people with special gifts and talents and abilities. Okay. Wednesday again, negative. It is important to emphasize not that she can't complain. That nevermore is dull. There's an adjective. Not with its werewolves, vampires, and more. Again, Wednesday. Wednesday, bump, bump. Complain, bump, bump. These are the vowels. This is the vowel sound that will be stressed. Nevermore, bump, bump, bump. Nevermore. Werewolves, bump, bump. Werewolves, vampires, bump, bump, and more. Listen. Wednesday can't complain that nevermore is dull, not with its werewolves, vampires, and more. I don't know if I like more. I might say, and other creatures. We'll put creatures for now, but it's debatable what you want to call them all. Creatures. All right. Read it with me. Wednesday can't complain that nevermore is dull, not with its werewolves, vampires, and other creatures. Okay? You have 5 sentences now, okay, marked up completely. Okay, let me put it on the screen like this. I'll go a little slow, like smaller. This is a perfect time, if you come back to the recording, pause and read all 5 sentences. Grab your phone, get the recorder, voice memo, and start recording yourself. Okay, record, read the 5 sentences, practice, and then record again after you've practiced some more so you can compare your first recording to your second one, which will be done after you practice a little bit more. And you should feel more confident just taking one sentence at a time, right? This is where you breathe. You don't want to take a break and pause and breathe in the middle of an idea. It would be weird to say, I started to watch a new series on Netflix. It just breaks the flow. So knowing where the natural thought groups are will make your speech sound more natural. And then what you're stressing creates the right rhythm and helps you sound more natural. See? We're always using thought groups. We're always using stress. What do you stress? Content words. Okay? And anytime you have 2 or more syllables, one of those syllables will be stressed. Okay, so you want to know, if you're not sure, you have resources. Go to a learner's dictionary and find the stress. So this is a wonderful activity you can do over the weekend. Read the 5 sentences and polish them, perfect them, get confident saying them. You could also write your own sentence about a movie or a TV show that you like. Write it out and then start marking it up and think about, again, thought groups, content words, stress syllables, and then read it aloud more confidently after you've marked it up, okay? Yes. Manuel, is that a request, help with all of that, or are we talking about content words? Again, just to wrap this part up, content words usually are the nouns, verbs, adjectives, and adverbs, common nouns and proper nouns, right? Function words tend to be all the little words that help us grammatically, like articles, prepositions, pronouns, okay? And the thought groups are usually defined by punctuation and then grammatical units like prepositional phrases or a that clause or an embedded question with a WH word, okay? Good job. Okay. Now, in these sentences, look, I've put in some contractions because they're a natural part of everyday English. A contraction is a short form. My members can help me. I'm going to highlight them and you guys write the full forms. I've is short for what? I've. My hippo, Manuel, you guys can type that out for me. What is I've short for? Here's the next one. It's. You got to be careful with it's, right? Because S can represent different words. But here, it's the daughter. What does, in this sentence, what is it's? Who's the focus? And be careful, right? I've made this mistake myself. Remember, there's a difference, right? They sound exactly the same. This is possessive, like, whose phone is this, right? But when you go like this, it's a contraction, and this represents a verb. Which verb? Okay, good, my hippo, I have. Next, it's, what is that short for? And whose, what is that short for? Good, keep going. Number 3, hasn't. Hasn't is short for what? Doesn't is short for what? Can't is short for what? Okay. Now I'm going to do a partial announcement, partial explanation here. I'm always going to use contractions because when I speak, it's just a natural part of everyday spoken English. More formal language will use the fuller forms, and formal writing will use fuller forms as well. But the short forms are a part of everyday communication. Who's not, has not, super. Keep going with doesn't and can't. I've had students over the years, and even right now, among my private students, there are a couple who have requested practice with contractions. And I am aware that people avoid saying contractions because they're not sure how to say it. And you can get away with it. I know, like, and I'm a beginner in Spanish, as you know, if you follow my vlogging about my journey. And there are a few different words in Spanish for car. And I tend to say coche instead of carro because I have trouble rolling my R's. So thank goodness I have an alternative. I can say coche or auto. And then in Russian, sometimes grammatically, I forget how to conjugate a certain verb. So I reword the sentence so I can use the infinitive, right? Like I want to do that because I can't remember exactly how to conjugate a verb. So the fun thing is, when you're speaking, there are strategies just to communicate. You know, if something is a little difficult, if you can't remember something, find a different way to get your idea across. But with something like contractions, I don't want you avoiding them for the rest of your life. You can learn how to say them and grow your confidence so that you can use them in your spoken English. So what I've been working on, thank you, cannot, does not, super. I would write cannot as one word, my hippo. Interesting point. Cannot is written as one word. That's an exception. I am working on a new package for you. I had it before, but I'm jazzing it up. I'm going to add some extra stuff to it so that you can gain more practice with contractions, okay? So you don't have to take, you're welcome to take a private lesson, but I know not everyone can. So I'm putting together a package of materials, and some of them are the exact same kinds of drills that I work with when I have private students who want to work on contractions. So in this package will be my model, the PDF so you can follow along, and I'll throw in some little tutorials to help you with certain sounds like a flap T in idle or a glottal stop in a word like not can't, but can't complain, which is how American English speakers say this all the time. Can't. We use a glottal stop. So be on the lookout because this is coming soon. I'm going to finish up the materials this weekend, bundle it up for you, and then I'll make an announcement. But I'm excited to put this bundle together and offer it because I know that people are avoiding saying contractions. And I want to tell you, please don't avoid saying them just because you aren't sure how. So let me give you a resource to help you feel more confident so that you can hear them, repeat and say them, and develop that confidence that you are using them correctly. You're saying them clearly and naturally enough so you can put them back into your speech and stop avoiding contractions. So I'll make the announcement soon. Okay? Super. Yes. And this happens with Americans too. When you say the difference like can complain, can gets reduced, and can sounds more like can. She can complain about anything. She can complain about anything. But when you say can't, it tends to be a little more emphasized. Wednesday can't complain. But in addition to that emphasis on the A and then the N, we use a glottal stop in American English. Can't. So that's something that I will practice with you in this digital bundle, right? What happens with these negatives? Can't, doesn't, hasn't. So let me bundle it up for you and I will tell you when it's all ready, and then you can click and get it into your hands so you can start practicing the contractions. Okay? I don't want you to avoid contractions anymore. I want you to get very confident, very comfortable, and use them in your spoken English. Okay, super. All right, I only see Ma Hippo and Manuel with me today, but I'm hoping others might click and join. Remember, the members get follow-up tasks later, so I might give you a sentence for you to mark up so you can feel more confident marking up a sentence for oral reading. It's a very wonderful skill. It's something that private students do with me as well, so that you can learn how to mark up anything that you have to prepare. If you have to prepare a talk, a presentation, lots of situations bring you into public speaking. And if you have the chance to prepare by marking up your text, your script, your notes, whatever, you'll feel more confident going into that situation. Okay, but the request came in for help with clarity with pronouns and other reference words, because these are words that refer back to someone or something. And it does happen. Native speakers and non-native speakers alike sometimes use it thinking, oh, the word's clear. I know what I'm talking about. Yes, but sometimes your reader or your listener, but especially your reader, doesn't know what or who you're talking about. So you have to be careful and not make assumptions that everyone is following along with your reference words. And just as a quick little exercise, again, I'll have Manuel and Ma Hippo help me out. Little grammar quiz here. Reference words. The category is big, but let's look at these and give some examples. Subject pronouns are words like I and what else? Manuel, Ma Hippo? They can be the subject of a sentence. So not saying Jennifer is a teacher, but I am a teacher. So I substitutes or replaces Jennifer because I don't need to talk about myself in the third person, right? What are the subject pronouns? Okay. And we'll make quick little lists here. And I'll put this here. I'll start the list here. So me, right? So be careful with this. People have also asked me about this because they'll say like, my friend and me are going to a party tonight. In casual conversation, very informal English, people do use me as part of a subject, like my friend and me, my parents and me had a talk. You hear it. I don't necessarily recommend saying that, although it's become part of everyday English. Technically, the object pronouns are objects, so they should be receiving action, like, do you see me? Can you hear me? Tell me. Share it with me. So usually the object pronouns are reserved for objects, not subjects, but again, there's some exceptions. Okay. Yes, there we go. You, he, there we go. Thank you, thank you. These should be automatic. If you're watching this, I know you're not a beginner, so you know these. I, you, she, he, it, we, they, right? Me. What about these one, guys? Keep going. If you can complete the list. Reflexive, the action is coming back to you. I made a lesson on reflexive pronouns, words like myself, right? Good, 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 Manuel. You're on the ball here. You, her, him, it, us, them. Good. Myself. Demonstrative pronouns, just a fancy long word for saying this, that, and then what are the plural forms? And by the way, pronouns and these kinds of reference words are usually not stressed, but there are exceptions. Reflexive pronouns have 2 syllables. So yes, I would say myself, right? Ourselves, for example. Good, good, good. And possessive, with people, we'd say Jennifer's, like, right? Like that. But if I'm saying it's hers, it's not his, it's ours, it's not theirs, right? Etc. These can be confusing because there are possessive pronouns and possessive adjectives. These ones can substitute a whole name, like it's Jennifer's, like Jennifer's computer, it's hers. But it's her computer. If I put it before a noun, that's an adjective describing a noun. So look at the difference, right? Her, his, our, their. So sometimes the forms overlap in spelling, but other times they're different. Get it? Myself, yourself, herself, ourselves. Excellent. My hip. Yes, good guys. Ourselves. I would, myself. You'll see some variations of what is acceptable, but generally I'd say yourself. You can do it yourself, for example. He did it himself. You'll see some non-standard spellings and forms, but I would himself, herself, ourselves. We'll do it ourselves. They can do it themselves, right? Itself, for example, could also be an animal or creature that does something itself. And then indefinite pronouns, right? These are words like some, someone, something. Oh, you got Manuel. I was waiting for the plural forms. Thank you. This, that, these, those. These can be stressed. I was saying that, pronouns tend to be function words, but for clarity, we sometimes need to stress these demonstrative pronouns. I want this one, not that one, right? For contrast, we need to stress these words, right? And of course, I was thinking demonstrative, I'm tripping myself up. Just like we have possessive pronouns and adjectives, these can do double duty. I want this, not that. And then we could also use them before nouns, right? Let's just say demonstratives, because they can go both ways, right? We can use them as pronouns, substituting, and we can also use them before, like determiners, right? This computer, that computer, or simply this versus that. They can be alone or they can be before a verb. Okay, someone, something, somewhere. Someone, something, anyone, right? But these ones in particular, right? Now you got to be careful with these kinds of words. And I might do some of them with you, and then I'll leave some for practice on the community tab. These sentences are written, and I knew what I was talking about, but the question is it clear to you? It may not be clear to you because of my use of reference words. Let me read this aloud. Wednesday doesn't want to be anything like her mother. She told her that just because she liked certain things, it didn't mean that she would too. Make that a little bigger for you. The problem is Wednesday is a girl. She's the daughter of the family, or in the family. And then there's the mother, 2 female members of the family. And then in this next sentence, even actually starting here, well, this is clear. Okay, her mother. Starting here, we have she, 3 uses of she. And you might think, wait a second, who are you talking about? So you might think, what can be done to make this clearer? When we're speaking, if something is not clear, we have the chance to add additional sentences and clarify what we just said. When you're writing, you have the opportunity to revise. You write something, and then you read it to see if there's anything that you can improve. And reference words are something that you should look at. Are your reference words clear? Do you have clarity with your reference words? It's confusing, right? So you have to think, okay, what can I do? Wednesday doesn't want to be anything like her mother. She said, maybe we don't have to say she told her mother. Maybe she explained. We can take this one out. And we understand that it would be between the 2 of them. She explained that just because her mother liked certain things, it didn't mean that she would too. And this helps because I'm using mother twice now, and then the she would both refer to Wednesday. So I think this helps. Maybe it's not perfect, but it's an improvement. Wednesday doesn't like to be anything like her mother. She explained that just because her mother liked certain things, it didn't mean that she would too. What do you think? Better? Maybe if I had more time, I'd come up with something else, but I think that's an improvement. Yes, Manuel. We say the Addams family. The Addams family. I talked about it in the first task. Okay, so that helps. Look at this one. Catherine Zeta-Jones is lovely as the mother, Morticia. The casting is wonderful because the young daughter, played by Jenna Ortega, is also attractive. She manages to be glamorous, spooky, and vulnerable all at once. Clear or confusing? I think this is clear, right? We know who the mother is. We know who the daughter is. And again, here, you might be thinking, wait a second, who's she? Do you mean the daughter? Do you mean the mother? If you said also attractive, well, you think, well, okay, she's the one you most recently named. So maybe this is a reference to Jenna. But again, I'd argue that it's not entirely clear. So you might try to improve it for clarity. I might take this and reword it. And even that alone helps, because that's who I was really thinking about, Catherine Zeta-Jones. And because we haven't gotten to this sentence yet, there's only one person named so far, so there's only one person this can refer back to, the mother. And then we move on to name a second person, and there's no confusion. Catherine Zeta-Jones is lovely as the mother, Morticia. She manages to be glamorous, spooky, and vulnerable all at once. The casting is wonderful because the young daughter, played by Jenna Ortega, is also attractive. Okay? So sometimes it's just your positioning, the order, the sequence of sentences that you need to reconsider. Okay. Vulnerable. Hope that everyone knows that word. It's an interesting word, a fairly useful word. It's clear. She is the daughter. Morticia is the mom. Morticia is the mom. Wednesday is the daughter, by the way. Okay. Vulnerable, an adjective you can tell by the ending, like desirable, vulnerable, miserable. Those are adjectives. If you're vulnerable, Mahipo and Manuel, do you know what that is? Okay. If you're vulnerable, it's like you think, Catherine Zeta-Jones is this strong and beautiful woman. At the same time, her daughter's words sometimes hurt her, and her feelings get hurt. So yes, she's strong, but at the same time, it's possible to hurt her, right? She has some soft spots, so to speak. So can be hurt, can be offended, vulnerable. It's a nice word. Okay. All right. So you get the idea. Probably what I'm going to do, let's see. Maybe I'll do one more, and I'll leave 4 and 5 for the follow-up tasks. Okay, this is a challenge. Look at this. Wednesday likely has more in common with the unusual teens at Nevermore Academy, but she seems to be developing a friendship with a normal kid in town named Tyler. Then there's Xavier, who, unlike Tyler, is well-liked and gifted as a psychic. He's taken an interest in Wednesday. Will his interest be returned? You're like, whoa, wait a second. You're naming 2 people, Xavier, Tyler, who's who? Okay, Wednesday likely has more in common with the unusual teens at Nevermore Academy. Clear. But she seems to be developing a friendship with a normal kid in town named Tyler. Okay, there's 2 people, Wednesday and Tyler. Then there's Xavier, who, unlike Tyler, is well-liked and gifted as a psychic. He's taken an interest in Wednesday. Will his interest be returned? You might argue, sure, it's clear, because Xavier is the subject, or who we're talking about, and all of this should be Xavier. But I threw in the name Tyler again, which can be confusing. So you got to be careful. As soon as you throw in another name, if it's of the same gender, the references to he, him, his can be confusing. Okay? Yes, Manuel, I like your definition there of vulnerable. And by the way, different to is often used in British English. Different from is used in American English. Both are fine. Okay. I might keep this. This is fine. And then once we get into the mention of Xavier, it gets confusing. I might say, maybe I'll take that out. And we don't need to say Tyler again. We might say, in contrast, Xavier is well liked. That helps. And this already is an improvement, because now I just have one name, and these references can immediately come back to Xavier. I could also say Xavier is a well-liked and gifted psychic, and turn this into an adjective clause, who's taken an interest in Wednesday. Will his interest be returned? And now this, I think, is even better. So this third version, I think, is what I like best so far. And I could polish it more, but you see that when you have the lack of clarity, you might need to work a little. Not just one revision, but a second or third revision might get you closer to the level of clarity that you need. Let's read that. Wednesday likely has more in common with the unusual teens at Nevermore Academy, but she seems to be developing a friendship with a normal kid in town named Tyler. In contrast, Xavier is a well-liked and gifted psychic who's taken an interest in Wednesday. Will his interest be returned? I like that better. Casting. Why you say casting? Do you understand what I say? I'm not talking about the cast as the group of people, the process of casting, the people who chose, the selection of cast members, by the way. Casting is wonderful. So I'm using cast as a verb and then make it a gerund, casting. So whoever did the casting did a good job. Whoever found and selected these actors for these roles did a good job. Because Catherine Zeta-Jones and Jenna Ortega are both lovely. Spooky, glamorous, and lovely. Does that help? Casting. Did I answer the question? Okay. All right, so 4-5 will wait. Okay, I think I've caught up with question. Unlikely here. Yeah, likely, probable, they're synonyms. Okay. As we wrap up, I wanted to do a quick little vocabulary check today. Wake up your brains, tap into vocabulary that we know, because this is a topic that my Patreon members are going to be diving into this month. Let's see how you all do with everyday vocabulary. What do you need to wash the dishes by hand? And I love that this is a topic because my Patreon members are high intermediate to advanced, and you think, oh, we know things like soap, right? But when you start thinking about more specific things, sometimes we're like, wait a second, how do I say that? Like very common activities we think about, and when we try to explain, we find that there are basic words that we don't know how to say, or we've forgotten how to say because we've been so focused on words like vulnerable that we forget about other things. Yes, like detergent. Like, what's that stuff called again? Detergent, right? So you need, we could say like dish soap. Some people say dish soap, or you could say detergent, right? And then you need water, and you don't use your hands, you use a, what? Yeah, a sponge, a sponge. Some people have a brush or something like that. And then after, if you don't have a dishwasher and they're all wet but clean, where would you put your dishes? Do you know? You could put it simply on a towel, right? And you can dry things off, phrasal verb. Or you put it on a dish rack, right? And then you start thinking, okay, when you do this kind of exercise, don't just say a thing like sponge. What do you do with a sponge? You scrub, you wash, right? You squeeze it out, because when you're done, it has all that water, you squeeze it out. So though, again, do you remember these basic verbs? Scrub, squeeze, right? Wash, towel, dish rack, okay? Here, what keeps people, belts, what kind of belts? So you're thinking, yeah, doesn't it belts? Belts, what belts? What do we call those belts? Do you know? Seat belts. Some people say safety belt. I think it's less common. But seat belts, safety belts. And then what do you do with them? Manuel has it. Fasten. Use. You can fasten your seat belt. Use your safety belt. Put on. Some people say put on your seat belts. Do you know all the verbs? Put on your seatbelt, use your seatbelts, fasten your seatbelts. You can also, some people might use buckle, buckle yourself in, right? Or you might fasten it and then unfasten or unbuckle. That happens too. When your nails are long, what can you do? What do you do with long nails? You go, or again, you're like, oh, what is that again? And it's like the words that maybe you would recognize if you hear them, but if you're trying to say them yourself, it can be on the tip of your tongue. There's a good expression, on the tip of your tongue. You're like, what is that again? Do you know that? Good, You can cut your nails. Cut your nails, trim your nails, good. And what do you use? You might use a nail file, or a nail. We don't say necessarily cutter, do you know? Clipper, a nail clipper. So you can cut your nails, trim your nails, use a nail file, use a nail clipper. You might clip and then file your nails. Some people don't like to cut, they only like to file. Right. There is a set of everyday vocabulary that I made a long time ago. I'll put it here in the chat. Let me see if I can get it there. Doot, doot, doot. No, not here. There. Just put it there for you guys. Okay. There's a little collection of short videos that goes over very simple everyday vocabulary, from laundry to nails to making a cup of tea. Or so if you want to review everyday vocabulary, there's that free collection. Okay, but if you would like to get more practice, not just recalling the words, but using them and describing them and telling stories using that basic everyday vocabulary, I invite you to consider joining the group on Patreon. We have lifelong learners. They study with me from month to month. We have live classes on May 10th and 24th, and they voted in a poll, and the topic is everyday vocabulary. So we'll be meeting twice this month for 75 minutes. They get pre and post lesson tasks, and as soon as you join, you get access to a lot of material that's been archived. So if you join today, you'll be just in time to join us on May 10th and 24th for everyday vocabulary. Okay. All right, super. All right, again, so feel free to check that out on Patreon for live classes and everyday vocabulary. Okay, we're going to be winding down. Just a little preview and an announcement. Next week, I'm excited to go back to my playlist on phrasal verbs. I was doing the most common phrasal verbs and doing 3 at a time. It's been a while since I've added to that playlist, so that's coming out next week. There will be new verbs. One of them is look, with some other endings, some other particles. So my members right now on YouTube will get a preview with phrasal verbs with look. So I'm going to share first 2 with all of you, and then my members will be able to finish this task online, okay, on the community tab. So do you know which phrasal verbs are missing? Quick little quiz. Everyone can benefit from this quick little review. Do you know which particles are missing? And then be on the lookout next week for the full lesson on phrasal verbs. If you don't know what a word means, you can do what? Some kids really look to their parents or older siblings, right? They respect them, they admire them. What do they do? Okay. If these phrasal verbs are somewhat unfamiliar to you, I would encourage you to make your own examples after the live stream. Practice using them in your own sentences. We also had that word vulnerable, which might be new for some of you as well. Look it up in a dictionary, listen to the pronunciation, say it again, vulnerable. Look at examples in the dictionary. Look at the text that I shared about the Addams family, and you can create your own example. Yes, my hippo. But where does the object go? You can look it up. We separate it and we put the pronoun in between. Look it up. And here, yes. Isn't it funny? Similar but different meanings. You can look it up and we separate it. Look it up, meaning find the information, search and find. Here, look up to someone. No separation. Look up to someone. You admire them. You respect them, right? All right, super guys. We're going to end here and come back here. I want to say thank you to kind-hearted patrons on Patreon and all to the members. Thank you guys. I'm hoping that more of you members will go on the community tab and check out the follow-up tasks. So thank you to members. Thank you to kind-hearted patrons on Patreon. Okay, I'm going to stay here just for an extra moment to see if there are any new questions. I'll come here. Whoopsies. Let me work my magic and say, there we go. Sometimes I don't wave that magic wand fast enough. So today, what did we do? We looked at content words and function words, and we practiced marking up some sentences that you can now go back to and read and record and become very confident reading aloud with expression. You can apply what you've learned to new sentences, things that you read or things that you've written, and practice reading those short texts aloud to sound more natural. If you understand content words versus function words, you'll capture the rhythm of the language better. You'll also be breathing more naturally as you speak and as you read. So I encourage you to review that task if that's something new for you or something that you lack confidence doing. In that task, we saw some contractions, and I told you that soon I'll be sharing some resources with you that you can download so you can practice contractions, because I've been hearing from people over the years and even recently that contractions are something that people avoid saying because they're like, how do I say it? Or I don't know if I'm saying it right. So I don't think people understand when I say can or can't. So I just say cannot. So I put this package together. I'm putting on the final touches this weekend, and I'll share that. I'll announce it as soon as it's ready. Okay. We also worked on clarity with pronouns. Members, you'll have a follow-up task to gain more practice so that your reference words are clear to your readers. Right. We also had a little bit of a quiz with everyday vocabulary and also a short quiz on phrasal verbs. More practice is coming on the community tab. So I welcome members to check out the community tab in just a little while, and I'll post those tasks for you. Okay. All right. I wish you a wonderful evening, a wonderful day, a wonderful weekend, and a wonderful month of May. Thank you for joining me, everyone. Take care. And remember, if you're always looking for practice, my goodness, I have so many videos to choose from. If you're overwhelmed, go to my website, check out YouTube videos, and you can see them all grouped into the playlists so you can focus on the skills that you need. I also want to remind you of the final thing I'll say is that I do have other freebies ready to go, guys. So if you want to see what else you can get for free right now, today, you can check out this link. When you come to my YouTube channel, just click on About, and you'll see all these links here. The first two are free stuff, guys. And my gifts to you, if you want to work on vowel sounds and also gain clarity when you're saying those stressed vowel sounds, you want to work with these resources. Gain clarity, gain confidence with your vowel sounds. The other resource that I've been offering is a movie power pack. Basically, it's a collection of text. These are movie reviews, so they're fun to read and fun to listen to. You will build your listening skills. You'll also build vocabulary. It comes with vocabulary notes, so it's a wonderful little package that you can use over time. The two packages alone would definitely keep you busy for a month. So if you want to start working with those first, you're welcome to. Okay? All right, guys, I'm going to say goodbye and wish you happy studies.